Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at Immun'Âge. Immun'Âge is the ultimate anti-aging supplement. Since I've been taking it, I feel energized at the top of my game, and people keep saying I look younger. Go to Immun'Âge.com and use code Larry for 10% off. Also brought to you by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, MyPillow, AmFed Coin, and Bullion. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these incredible videos. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
You like to see that again? It's hard to catch the first time.
We know where you live. Now, that was some Saturday night, wasn't it?
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the f they're doing. Do you understand that?
Hours later.
Unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're designed to deeply bury and then function. I know there's been a lot of questions about that. All 6 weapons at each vent at Fordow went exactly where they were intended to go. A bomb has 3 effects that causes damage: blast, fragmentation, and overpressure. In this case, the primary kill mechanism in the mission space was a mix of overpressure and blast, ripping through the open tunnels and destroying critical hardware. The majority of the damage we assessed based on our extensive modeling was a blast layer combined with the impulse extending from the shock. Imagine what this looks like 6 times over. A point that I want to make here, the Joint Force does not do BDA. By design, we don't grade our own homework. The intelligence community does. But here's what we know following the attacks and the strikes on Fordo. First, that the weapons were built, tested, and loaded properly. 2, the weapons were released on speed and on parameters. 3, the weapons all guided to their intended targets and to their intended aim points. 4, the weapons functioned as designed, meaning they exploded. And we know this through other means, intelligence means that we have that were visibly, we were visibly able to see them. And we know that the trailing jets saw the first weapons function, and the pilots stated, quote, "This was the brightest explosion that I've ever seen. It literally looked like daylight." Let me now turn to the bomber crews themselves, give you a few details about them. The crews that attacked Fordo were from the active duty Air Force and the Missouri Air National Guard. The crews ranked from captain to colonel, and most were graduates of the Air Force Weapons School headquartered at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. I will state for the record that there is no beach volleyball or football at the Air Force Weapons School. They were male and female aviators on this mission. And a crew member told me when I talked to them on video the other day that this felt like the Super Bowl, the thousands of scientists, airmen, and maintainers all coming together. One last story about people. When the crews went to work on Friday, they kissed their loved ones goodbye, not knowing when or if they'd be home. Late on Saturday night, their families became aware of what was happening. And on Sunday, when those jets returned from Whiteman, their families were there. Flags flying and tears flowing. I have chills literally talking about this. The jets rejoined into a formation of 4 airplanes followed by a formation of 3 and came up overhead Whiteman proudly in the traffic pattern, pitching out to land right over the base and landing to the incredible cheers of their families who sacrifice and serve right alongside their family members. Like I said, there were a lot of flags and a lot of tears. One commander told me this is a moment in the lives of our families that they will never forget. That, my friends, is what America's Joint Force does. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we test, we evaluate every single day. And when the call comes to deliver, we do so. I could not be more proud standing up here today of our Joint Force. I'm filled with gratitude that I get to tell their story. And as we stand here right now, our forces remain on a high state of readiness in the region, prepared to defend themselves. And one last thing, our adversaries around the world should know that there are other DTRA team members out there studying targets for the same amount of time, and will continue to do so. Thank you very much. I apologize for the length. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just thank you, by the way, for that extensive work, the lay down. I mean, even, do you have that laser pointer? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, squaring me away as always. I mean, even in just the public reporting, if you see the post-strike shaft of the 3 holes, the vast majority, and fairly so, the vast majority of speculation has been, those are the 3 strike points. When in actuality, what you realize is these are the vents, these are the caps, the first munition took the cap off, and the other 5 went down the center hole, which if you're planning the target, you would want it to be the direct one going to the bottom. These are the types of things that go into the planning for a strike that the Pentagon would not expect the press corps, the American people, to initially understand. So laying this information out is helpful. But it's also why we ask for a beat, for a moment, for a day or 2, the opportunity to tell that story. Because as the chairman said, these men and women that did this mission, they just want to do their job. They're not expecting their story to be told. They're not expecting the glory. They are grateful for the flags and the hugs of family. That's why they do the job. But they also know they were a part of something historic. We know how historic it was. The chairman does. I know. Our staffs know. And so that's why we are, and the president of the United States knows. And that's why it's almost personal when we see the way in which leaks are used to try to disparage the outcome or muddy the waters about the impact of what happened without being responsible with information and allowing the professionals to assess and provide that information just like the chairman did. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that information.
Sure.
It's holding. It's holding. It got off to a very wobbly start. There was some back and forth. Then we heard President Trump had some choice words for both parties, but particularly for the Israelis. And since then, it has been quiet. And it's remarkable to see how quickly life goes back to normal. Israel announcing that it's opening schools, it's opening airports, workplaces, the beach was humming. I saw boats for the first time. The Iranians also out on the streets going to rallies. There was some kind of a classical music concert. And so, yeah, very quickly people getting back to their lives.
CNN claimed that Trump gave notice to Republican leaders about the attack, but did not do so for Democrat congressional leaders. Fake news.
Some U.S. lawmakers got word in advance about the strikes on Iran, but the notification went along party lines. Sources say Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune got the early notice. The same applies to the top Republicans on the House and the Senate Intelligence Committees. But their Democratic counterparts were informed later, despite the fact that they all are usually briefed on major military engagements. Well, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is now demanding answers about the strikes from President Trump. Both chambers are expected to vote in the coming days on the limits of his war powers.
First of all, we did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massie and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat because he's more aligned with them than with the Republican Party. We're given notice. The White House made calls to congressional leadership. They were bipartisan calls. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries couldn't be reached. We tried him before the strike, and he didn't pick up the phone, but he was briefed after, as well as Chuck Schumer was briefed prior to the strike. So this notion that CNN ran with at the White House did not give a heads up to Democrats is just completely false. In fact, both Senator Schumer's office and CNN had to retract that story last night because it was a blatant lie, and we showed them the timestamps from those phone calls.
Okay, all together, Dems, let's condemn the Trump-ordered strike on these 3 nuclear sites because it was illegal and required congressional approval.
Donald Trump and his actions, which do not appear to be consistent with the United States Constitution, takes unilateral offensive military action without seeking the approval of the United States Congress. The use of military force, which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution. It's not optional, Donald. It's not. The framers of the Constitution actually gave Congress the power to declare war for a reason, so the American people, through their elected representatives, would have the opportunity to debate the issue and make some decisions as it relates to what's in the best interest and the national security of the American people. Donald Trump and the administration chose to ignore the Constitution. And so they're going to have to come before Congress and explain their justification for an offensive military strike against Iran. Yes, we can never allow Iran to become a nuclear power. And of course Israel has the right to defend itself, and will support Israel's security in an ironclad manner.
As I said Saturday night, Congress and the American people are owed answers. No president should be allowed to unilaterally march this nation into war with erratic threats, no strategy, no explanation. That's why I've called on Leader Thune to hold a vote immediately to enforce the War Powers Resolution. The law requires the Trump administration to consult with Congress. The Constitution demands it. And the American people, especially the families of those in harm's way, deserve nothing less. Confronting the Iranian regime's nuclear ambitions and stopping their campaign of terror demands strength, resolve, and strategic clarity.
Well, first of all, the strikes were unconstitutional. We can't just go bomb another country in Iran without congressional authorization. And this is why Representative Massey, a Republican, and I have a war powers resolution in the House of Representatives. Senator Kaine has a war powers resolution in the Senate. On Monday, both the Senate and the House could have a vote on this resolution. People should go on the record. And it's very important to do this now so that we can signal that we don't want further escalation with Iran. My concern is two things with the strikes. One, it puts our troops at risk in the Middle East. It puts American personnel at risk. It puts all Americans at risk. I am hoping that Iran is not foolish enough to retaliate against Americans, because that is going to escalate the situation, but it has put all of us at risk. And the second thing is President Obama had a JCPOA agreement that limited enrichment to under 5% only at the Natanz facility. Donald Trump ripped that agreement up. You had 60% enrichment going on in Fordow where they struck. And the problem is that without a diplomatic solution, you're going to have Iran now kick out the IEA inspectors, rip up the NPT, and be more determined to build with the know-how to do it in spare centrifuges. So this does not solve the problem over the long term.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran," etc. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard, the second alarming that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
Unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval is a very grave public admission. It is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and so for me, while the president is posting something about a ceasefire, I think what he also posted was an official acknowledgement that this was war. And I think that is something that should be taken into very serious consideration.
There are a lot of Democrats who are throwing cold water on the idea that the president deserves to be impeached over this and saying that we should be throwing around impeachment given it's such a grave, serious matter. What do you say to that?
I mean, of course, everyone can have their differences of opinion regarding that matter. A resolution has not been filed, and not filed in a privileged sense. I believe that a president bombing and bringing this country into direct conflict with another nation state without notifying, full notification of Congress, without congressional approval, endangering service members, U.S. military bases, not providing intelligence is reckless. I think that, and we know that this is not a left or right issue. An overwhelming amount of Americans are opposed to the United States being dragged into war. And if we want to talk about serious decisions, I think the serious decision of entering the United States into direct conflict without any legal approval unconstitutionally is the grave decision that we need to be talking about right now.
Thank you so much. We have to go.
I couldn't read the whole thing, but it sounds like I agree with that it's an absolute violation of the Constitution.
It's the grounds for impeachment piece that I want you to weigh in on. It's that right there at the end.
Well, without saying what anybody should do in any particular situation, undoubtedly a violation of the war powers of Congress, the usurpation of the war powers of Congress, would be an impeachable offense, would be a high crime and misdemeanor. I mean, Israel said we've just, in what Israel did on its own, we set them back 2 or 3 years. So that's not an emergency. Remember, the president can only assert the power to use military in a context in which there's an imminent threat to us. And that clearly wasn't there. So we can add this to a very long list of things.
And managed to pull Donald Trump in, who in turn seems to be working hard to pull the entire United States into war in Iran. The Constitution is clear. Only Congress can declare war. We all understand there are exceptions when our troops are at risk, when our homeland is at risk, when Americans are at risk, but none of those apply in this case. What Donald Trump has done is unconstitutional, and we're going to have a vote this week in the United States Senate on War Powers Act, and this is our opportunity. It only takes a simple majority to reel back in Donald Trump and make clear to the world that the United States is not going to war against Iran.
And the notion that this isn't an act of war, I find ludicrous. This is a hot war. There are two nations, Israel and Iran, trading volleys of missiles every night, every day, and we're co-belligerent now in this war.
I mean, the vice president went on to say that they needed to act now because there was a narrow window, and if they waited, it could have been too late. And they needed to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Do you not share that concern?
No, I don't share that concern. But I have another concern, and that is that 3 bombings to neutralize Iran may turn out to be the 2025 version of 2 weeks to slow the spread. This could turn into a protracted, prolonged engagement, and I'm here to represent the base of the MAGA party that got Trump elected. Most of us were tired of the wars in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, and we were promised that we wouldn't be engaging in another one. Yet here we see this happening, and there's the president and the administration say, "Oh, we're done. We've had our little bombing, and now this is over." But what happens if this drags on between Israel and Tel Aviv gets pummeled by Iran? Is President Trump going to say we're going to sit by and not do anything in that instance? I'm leery of this given everything that's happened before.
Since he got into office, the President of the United States has been goading Iran into war. First, he canceled our best shot at avoiding armed conflict, the Iran nuclear deal. Then he announced crippling sanctions to starve the innocent people of Iran. And whether he publicly says he wants nothing to do with wars or that he wants to end endless wars, we know that his actions are contradictory to his statements because every single person he surrounded himself with has been itching to go to war with Iran. And this is a man who is both an arsonist and a fireman. He starts a crisis, then he wants to create the appearance of wanting to solve it. He's done that here. Our ability to fight ISIS has also been eroded because of the suspension of the Iran nuclear deal. The occupant of the White House has not done a single thing to stabilize the region. He has done everything to create more tension. We are no more safer today than we were yesterday.
And to understand enough about the Constitution to the extent that I'm the one that's supposed to make the decision or at least get a vote.
Hey, Eldorados, you know I just had my birthday a few days ago, and I just turned, but honestly, I feel more like 43. The other day I was asked, yo, Eldersky, how do you stay so sharp? I said something about feeling young again, and then it hit me. I really do feel younger, and I'll tell you why. It's this stuff right here. It's called Immun'Âge. It's a 100% natural, anti-aging Japanese supplement made 100% of fermented papaya. I've been using it daily for the past few months, and I've noticed a real difference. My immunity is stronger. Energy's up. Even my skin is looking younger. Now, just pour this packet under your tongue. It's a powder. Let it dissolve. That's it. Tastes great. No pills to swallow. No hassle. If you want to look and feel younger and give your body something it'll thank you for, go to Immun'Âge.com. That's IMMUNAGE.com and use my code Larry at checkout. Immun'Âge, not too hard to pronounce, Immun'Âge.com, code Larry at checkout for 10% off. Please welcome to the program the CEO of Freedom Chat, Tanner Haas. My question, Tanner, is assume that instead of using Signal, they had been using Freedom Chat. Would what happened have happened?
Well, I think there's a few reasons to suggest that it is likely that it would not have happened. Somebody was inadvertently added to a group chat, not with his phone number, but with the username. If I had two friends, one is named Larry Elder, the other same initials, LE, I accidentally added the wrong individual. That is really what happened. So let's make the phone number. That should be a verification right there. Number two is in a top secret group chat. You should have an approval process. So if you and I are in a group chat, Larry, with a few other people, and I want to add somebody to that group chat, then everybody in the group chat should have to approve that individual that I'm attempting to add. And until that approval process takes place, he should not, or she should not successfully be added to the group chat. It looks like he took a screenshot of the chat. Doesn't look like he took it with another phone. Freedom Chat prevents screenshots and screen recordings entirely. And as you know, if you try to take a screenshot within Freedom Chat, all you'll get is a blank white screen. And we prevent media from being saved as well. What's occurred on Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp is they allow one account to be on multiple devices. That to me opens up the door for security vulnerabilities, phishing, hacking, abuse. So that means that your phone number, Larry, you can log in on your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, iPhone number 2, and the more devices you have out there, the greater likelihood that something's going to happen. With Freedom Chat, we do not allow that, or we put a priority over privacy and security compared to convenience. So your phone number can only be linked to one device. Somebody tried to log in on another device with your phone number, the messages wouldn't even decrypt. It would say send a message, but decryption failed.
Don't watch from the sidelines. Invest in freedom, invest in your privacy, and be a part of history.
Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat.
Download the app today. Allow me to digress. Did Crockett call the president a MoFo and this dude?
All right, I'm gonna give y'all a second to jump on. Hopefully I've got a decent connection, as I am in a car. I'm driving to another location. I literally shed a tear or two. And so long story short, for those of you that are unaware, the MoFo that resides in the White House has unilaterally, in my estimation, declared war. We have a constitution that seemingly does not matter to this man or the people that are supposed to be advising him. I will say that I want to give a shout out to a Republican, Thomas Massey, who made it clear that he wanted to reiterate that the power as relates to war declaration, the power that we derive from the Constitution, it resides with Congress. And the House is out. Hell, the Senate is out. It is a Saturday right now. So no one's in. We ain't been called in. And let me just explain briefly why I am so heartbroken. Is because I don't think a number of nations should have nuclear weapons. Like, let's just kind of level set on that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want anybody randomly just kind of coming at our throats and being like, yo, like, y'all got nukes, so we just gonna, like, no. That is not how you deal with things. And there is a such thing as diplomacy. And we are living in this time in which there is someone who is occupying the White House who does not care about any rules, any norms, any laws, nor the Constitution. And we cannot be a civilized country if there is no law and order. So I know they may claim we law and order, blah, blah, blah. So go get the undocumented people and let's try to ship them out. Let me tell you something. They are not the people that are putting us in harm's way. It is him and his administration that is putting us in harm's way. I am telling you right now that I legitimately have had no intel whatsoever. Zero intel as a sitting member of Congress, regardless of how you feel about me, regardless of my party affiliation. No one has consulted specifically with me or anybody in my office to give us any information. And so the idea that this dude sitting in the White House, because it didn't come from Congress, so the only person that it could have come from would be him.
And she mocked wheelchair-bound Governor Greg Abbott of Texas by calling him Governor Hot Wheels.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
And in attacking Black Florida Representative Byron Donalds, Crockett said, quote, "You married a white woman, and so you think that whitewashed you?" End of quote.
And if we continue to put people into office, and that even means some of our skinfolk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, who are going to continue to say that, like, I mean, the fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, like, is this because you don't understand history? Or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you? I'm not really sure, like, what it is.
Well,
but
you
I
couldn't
need
even be married to a white woman under Jim
correct,
Crow.
correct. And it took Joy to call him out. So I'm like, bruh, like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying? Like, he just out here, you know, I feel like they give him his talking points and he's like, yes, massa, I got it.
OMG. Imagine the fate of any congressional Republican who called President Barack Obama a MoFo, ridiculed a Democrat politician's disability, and attacked a Democrat politician for being in an interracial marriage. You know, when then Republican Representative Steve King of Iowa said, and I'm quoting him, "White nationalist, white supremacist, white civilization," how did that language become offensive, close quote? Republican leaders denounced him. House Republicans took away his committee assignments. The House passed a resolution of condemnation 424-1, and King was primaried and lost his congressional seat. But when it comes to Crockett, where's the Democrat leadership? Where's Representative Jeffries? Where's Schumer? Where's Pelosi? Where's Barack Obama? Where's Hillary Clinton? Where's Kamala Harris? Or is she whitewashed? Where are the scathing editorials in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times, blasting both Crockett's racism and the Democrat leadership for putting up with it? Why the no-fly zone over Crockett?
I'm waiting! Really quick on Jasmine Crockett. She said, I believe, that Trump supporters are mentally ill before calling for bipartisan support against the president. Can you respond to that, especially considering she's a rising star in the Democrat Party right now?
She is a rising star. It's quite something to behold, actually. I hope that she continues to be a rising star for the Republican Party, at least. I think it's incredibly derogatory to accuse nearly 80 million Americans of mental illness. The last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett couldn't dream of winning such a majority of the public as President Trump did. And the America First movement, which President Trump has built, is filled of hardworking patriots, the forgotten men and women, business owners, law enforcement officers, nurses and teachers, and middle America, as we all know, from where you all grew up, outside of this beltway. That's who makes up this president's movement. And Jasmine Crockett should go to a Trump rally sometime, and she can see it for herself.
And to understand enough about the Constitution to the extent that I'm the one that's supposed to make the decision, or at least get a vote.
Hypocrisy alert!
A presidential address to the nation.
Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, the American people give thanks for the extraordinary service of our men and women in uniform, including the pilots who flew these missions with the courage and professionalism that we've come to expect from the finest military that the world's ever known.
First, we will conduct a systematic campaign of airstrikes against these terrorists. Working with the Iraqi government, we will expand our efforts beyond protecting our own people and humanitarian missions so that we're hitting ISIL targets as Iraqi forces go on offense. Moreover, I've made it clear that we will hunt down terrorists who threaten our country wherever they are.
Given his intransigence, the 16 members of NATO have just voted to give our military commanders the authority to carry out airstrikes against Serbia. I ordered our armed forces to strike military and strategic targets in Iraq. They were joined by British forces. That operation is now complete in accordance with our 70-hour plan. My national security team has just briefed me on the results. They are preliminary, but let me say just a few words about why we acted, what we have achieved, and where we want to go. We began with this basic proposition. Saddam Hussein must not be allowed to develop nuclear arms, poison gas, biological weapons, or the means to deliver them. He has used such weapons before against soldiers and civilians, including his own people. We have no doubt that if left unchecked, he would do so again.
On Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan, that killed the emir of al-Qaeda. The United States continues to demonstrate our resolve and our capacity to defend the American people against those who seek to do us harm. You know, we make it clear again tonight that no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
What do you make of these attacks between Iran and Pakistan?
As you can see, Iran is not particularly well liked in the region. Yeah. And where that goes, we're working on now. I don't know where that goes.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
As Commander-in-Chief, my highest priority is the security of the American people. Over the last several years, we have consistently taken the fight to terrorists who threaten our country. We took out Osama bin Laden and much of al-Qaeda's leadership in Afghanistan and Pakistan. We've targeted al-Qaeda's affiliate in Yemen and recently eliminated the top commander of its affiliate in Somalia. Thanks to our military and counterterrorism professionals, America is safer. If left unchecked, these terrorists could pose a growing threat beyond that region, including to the United States. While we have not yet detected specific plotting against our homeland, ISIL leaders have threatened America and our allies. Tonight, I want you to know that the United States of America is meeting them with strength and resolve. Last month, I ordered our military to take targeted action against ISIL to stop its advances. Since then, we've conducted more than 150 successful airstrikes in Iraq. These strikes have protected American personnel and facilities, killed ISIL fighters, destroyed weapons, and given space for Iraqi and Kurdish forces to reclaim key territory. These strikes have also helped save the lives of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. That is the difference we make in the world. And our own safety, our own security, depends upon our willingness to do what it takes to defend this nation and uphold the values that we stand for. Timeless ideals that will endure long after those who offer only hate and destruction have been vanquished from the earth.
This is one of those times where politicians sound like hypocrites, because Mark Kelly is right. Presidents should get congressional approval, but there have been a bunch of presidents who have ordered strikes without congressional approval. Barack Obama did it against Libya. Joe Biden ordered strikes in Iraq and Syria without congressional approval. Bill Clinton did it to, was it Kosovo? I think you pronounce it. So presidents ordering military action without congressional approval has become pretty routine. So is it always a thing when they do it? I'm just asking. I don't know.
Now, about congressional approval, the Council for Foreign Relations looked at the legality of Obama's drone strikes in 2017. It found that the 2001 authorization for use of military force had been stretched, their word, by Obama to, quote, justify strikes against terror groups that either did not exist on 9/11 or were unaffiliated with al-Qaeda, end of quote. So, how many times and for how long have we heard that a nuclear-armed Iran is unacceptable?
The Islamic Republic of Iran has been building a covert uranium enrichment facility near Qom for several years. The size and configuration of this facility is inconsistent with a peaceful program.
Of course, I would make it clear to the Iranians that an attack on Israel would incur massive retaliation from the United States. We will let the Iranians know that, yes, an attack on Israel would trigger massive retaliation. We are not going to permit them, if we can prevent it, from becoming a nuclear power. But were they to become so, their use of nuclear weapons against Israel would provoke a nuclear response from the United States, which personally I believe would prevent it from happening. Well, the question was, if Iran were to launch a nuclear attack on Israel, what would our response be? And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. And I want them to understand that, because it does mean that they have to look very carefully at their society, because whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic. So here's my message to Iran's leaders. The United States will never allow you to acquire a nuclear weapon. As president, I will take whatever actions are necessary to protect the United States and our allies. I will not hesitate to take military action if Iran attempts to obtain a nuclear weapon. And I will set up my successor to be able to credibly make the same pledge. We will make clear to Iran that our national commitment to prevention will not waver depending on who's in office. It's permanent. And should it become necessary in the future, having exhausted peaceful alternatives, to turn to military force, we will have preserved and in some cases enhanced our capacity to act.
The major danger of Iran becoming a nuclear power, I believe, is that the fissile material they would have to amass to make these bombs would become the juiciest target in the world for non-state actors who would like to have suitcase nuclear bombs. And will the Iranians sell it to them? Will they give it to them? Can it be stolen? Can some corrupt person in a supply chain give it to some other group?
We know the imperative of preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons.
You and I also discussed America's commitment to ensuring Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. This is a vital security interest to both Israel and the United States, and I would add, for the rest of the world as well. Iran, what I can say to you, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon on my watch, as they say.
To the issue of Iran, as long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. I made that clear when I came into office, because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world. Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism, and for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that they want to see Israel wiped off the map.
We've always made it clear to the Iranians there's a better way forward, that if they want to have a relationship with the EU3, the United States, and other countries, all they got to do is verifiably suspend their enrichment program. And the reason why that's important is if they learn to enrich, it means they've learned to, a key part of developing a nuclear weapon. And if they end up with a nuclear weapon, the free world's going to say, why didn't we do something about it at the time before they developed it?
Iran will get all sorts of money once the sanctions are lifted, and they will use too much of that money, in my judgment, to create real problems in the Middle East. They'll fund Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen and Assad in Syria. They will also be able to use it to build an ICBM, which could only be aimed at the United States since they have enough missiles to reach Israel and Europe.
We all agree that Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That is important. That is probably the most important item to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, an important pillar of our foreign policy and of shared view of our allies on this.
I have a lot of choices about who I work with in the precious metals industry, and so do you. I really love the fact that for over 45 years, AmFed Coin and Bullion has been serving buyers and sellers of coins and precious metals. AmFed has earned a reputation for providing helpful information, transparency, and fair pricing. Nick Grovich is especially hands-on. He believes that educated consumers make strong investors. Nick is upfront and transparent about AmFed's commission structure. The typical markup, only 3 to 7% compared to many dealers that may charge as high as 35% or even more. That is a remarkable difference. When you are choosing to invest in gold, it's important to be wise in whom you choose to execute that investment. Call AmFed Coin and Bullion today, 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. If you're in the Phoenix area, make an appointment to visit them in person as I did. You will be impressed. That's 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. Do you think EVs are better for the planet than gas-powered cars?
I think so.
Yes.
Probably not. Yes.
No.
Yes, I think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, electric is probably the best way to go.
When I first began hearing this business about net zero emission, I felt conflicted.
We will eliminate in the state of California the sales of internal combustion engines.
And most countries in the world have already signed up for it. I love my gasoline-powered cars. I don't want the planet to be damaged, so I just don't know what to believe. Is it really true that electric vehicles are better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles?
So without more mechanical parts moving in the vehicle, it's instantaneous. Torque is instantaneous.
The batteries are lasting very long.
Charging them at your house using solar is amazing.
That's it? Wow. I needed to get my hands on one of those cars.
What is your opinion of electric vehicles?
Oh boy, sorry. I'm not real fond of electric vehicles. They're good for around town. If you long distance, they create anxiety. Had one fire, sitting in the parking lot, just burst into flames. And then you're having a problem with the battery. What do you do with these batteries when they go bad?
When I think about visiting Ogbog Bloshi, it brought me to tears.
This metal to the lithium-ion batteries demand skyrocket in the past decade.
It's hard to get one mine permitted in the United States, which means we're going to be relying on those people who control those minerals, and that's China.
And I'm not willing to financially support that humanity atrocity.
An electric vehicle is a computer with 4 wheels and some seats.
The components of these electric vehicles are made in China, so there could be tracking mechanisms put into Americans' cars.
And I believe that the United States needs to stand up against that.
And my father always told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. And before you moan and groan, ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? My one question, my big overriding question would be real simple. Are EVs better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles? I mean, even Stephen A. Smith?
I don't like war. I don't like war involving America. I get that part. But I do believe that if Iran had a nuclear weapon, that they would use it. And I do agree that you can't allow an enemy of the United States to have a nuclear weapon. It's that simple to me. Having said that, I want to preface the comment by saying I stand by everything that I say if it's absolutely true. And let's not sit here and act like there aren't questions as to whether or not that is true.
And be still, my heart, praise from Joe Scarborough?
But David, as I said on Thursday or Friday, the president had no good options. What would Monday look like if he hadn't have moved, if Iran wasn't already at 60%, and an ability to create nuclear weapons in a short matter of time, right? I mean, I'm not this morning. I'm not championing either side of this. Although I ask you, David, how difficult would it have been for any president to not take that shot if they knew that Iran was even being attacked by the United Nations? I find it hard to believe that Bush 41, Bush 43, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, go down the list. Any presidents wouldn't have felt compelled to take that stride.
Even the CNN national security expert said he was impressed and that Trump indeed had this authority.
And just finally, as we look to diplomacy, there's been so much back-channel diplomacy going on over the last week, and it's my understanding now that the negotiation that will probably start with Iran fairly soon has a bit of a deadline because the Europeans are prepared to use a power called snapback. They can snap back all international sanctions between now and October, but they have to do it by August. That power expires under UN Security Council resolution put in place with the JCPOA, the Obama-era deal. And the Europeans are saying, it's my understanding, that if Iran thinks that it is going to maintain a secret stash of highly enriched uranium or it's going to threaten to leave the NPT, they are prepared to snap back sanctions. So the diplomacy has a bit of a deadline. Look, bottom line, this is about the best place we can be. I give extremely high marks to this national security team and President Trump for managing this crisis and given where we are. But now let's follow through. There's a chance for diplomacy here, not only on the Iran side, but also in Gaza. Those talks are also going on back channel. In Cairo, there's a Hamas delegation there. Try to get that ceasefire in place. And you can come out of this in a place that is far better than we would have anticipated 10 nights ago.
Of almost any American if you had an opportunity to watch it in real time. And I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America and Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy nuclear capabilities. And our boys in those bombers are on their way home right now. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future. And we certainly hope they take the path of negotiated peace. But I could not be more proud.
What I would say is that it's notable how much deception was involved in this operation. All eyes were looking west towards Guam and the B-2s that took off late last night towards Guam. It's possible that, but if the distance there would suggest that the B-2s may have also flown east from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Remember, the air refuelers, many of them were placed in Europe and across the Middle East, and that is what is known as an air refueling bridge. And all of those B-2s would require much air refueling in order to make it, they usually fly round trip from Whiteman. And so what we can say, and the president said this in his Truth Social post, is that a full payload of bombs, those massive ordnance penetrators, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, were dropped at Fordo. And as we have reported, there are 2 entrances to Fordo. So at least 2 bombs at each 2 entrances, which suggests at least 2 B-2s were involved over Fordo. My suspicion is that there were more. And then you have the 2 other sites, Natanz, which is also has an underground enrichment facility. The Israelis had not been able to reach or take out that facility despite the last 10 days of bombing. And so now U.S. warplanes, likely another B-2 bomber, had dropped that MOP, the 30,000-pound bunker buster, on Natanz. And then you also have Isfahan, a 3rd site south of Tehran. And that is also a very significant enrichment facility. So those B-2 bombers, it's possible that as everybody was looking west for the B-2s flying towards Guam, that in fact there was another package of squadron of B-2s that were flying east from Whiteman. It's about a 15-hour trip from Whiteman in Missouri to the Middle East, to Iran. And those bombers often fly round trip, and it takes them about 30 hours to get home. But they are out of danger tonight. They are not in Iranian airspace anymore, according to the president. The other thing I can point out, Brett, is that this is an operation, in the last 18 years since I've been at the Pentagon, I've never seen such operational security. There was nobody speaking about this, any of the preparations. There was a complete lockdown, almost a blackout of information for the last few days. I'm sitting here in the Pentagon right now. I can tell you the hallways are empty, and all of the information is coming right now out of the White House. That is a significant achievement because there were no leaks about the timing. Now, sometimes I think those who, a lot of the flight trackers, the open source intelligence flight trackers, that flight radar did indicate some of when the B-2s took off from Whiteman. But again, nobody really expected that it would take place this evening. If you looked at the moon schedule, you might have had a clue because it was a waning crescent and almost a new moon on the 25th. So it would have been very, very dark over Iran tonight, and you need that in order to bomb. That's the ideal condition for something like a B-2 that is, yes, it's stealth, but it still has to be escorted in case any Iran were to put up any planes or there were any opportunities to fire on those B-2s, which are such valuable and very, very special planes. Only the U.S. military has this kind of weaponry and this capability. No other country in the world could have carried off what occurred tonight at those 3 uranium enrichment sites.
Even the Secretary General of NATO was impressed, and he texts President Trump, quote, "Mr. President, dear Donald, congratulations, and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary and something no one else dared do. It makes us all safer," end of quote. He also congratulated Trump on getting the NATO countries to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Quote, "Europe is going to pay in a big way, as they should, and it will be your win. You achieved what no American president in decades could have done," end of quote. Now, here's why this happened. Remember the beatdown Trump 1.0 gave NATO for riding America's back and not paying their fair share?
And we all agree that we have to do more. I agree with you that we have to make sure that allies are investing more. The good news is that allies have started to invest more in defense. After years of cutting defense budgets, they have started to add billions to the defense budgets. And last year was the biggest increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada in a generation.
Why was that last year?
It's also because of your leadership, because your clear message, and
they won't write that. But
no, I have said it before, but the thing is that it really has your message is having an impact, and we are going to build on that to make sure that we have further increases. You initiated last year that all allies are going to develop national plans on how to spend more on defense. And based on these national plans, we now estimate that European allies and Canada will add 266 extra US dollars for defense from now until billion US dollars until 2024. So this is really adding some extra money. It helps, and we are moving in the right direction, but we still have to do more, and that is what we're going to address at the summit later on today. Let me also add that strong NATO is good for Europe, but it's also good for the United States. The US military presence in Europe helps to protect Europe, but it also helps the United States project power to the Middle East, to Africa, and I think also that the military clout of Europe, the economic clout, the political clout, also is helpful dealing with Russia. And we look forward to the meeting we're going to have with President Putin, and I think that leaders are also looking forward to your thoughts about the meeting with President Putin later on.
Well, I have to say, I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia, where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia, because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States, in actual numbers, is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. You know, we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody, and yet we're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it, because I don't think they understood it, or they just didn't want to get involved. But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country, it's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period, they have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something, because we're not going to put up with it. We can't put up with it, and it's inappropriate. So we have to talk about the billions and billions of dollars that's being paid to the country that we're supposed to be protecting you against. You know, everybody's talking about it all over the world. They'll say, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be protecting you from Russia, but why are you paying billions of dollars to Russia for energy? Why are countries in NATO, namely Germany, having a large percentage of their energy needs paid, you know, to Russia and taken care of by Russia? Now, if you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia, because they supply. They got rid of their coal plants. They got rid of their nuclear. They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at. I think it's very inappropriate. You and I agree that it's inappropriate. I don't know what you can do about it now, but it certainly doesn't seem to make sense that they pay billions of dollars to Russia, and now we have to defend them against Russia.
You know, NATO is an alliance of 29 nations, and there are sometimes differences and different views, and also some disagreements. And the gas pipeline from Russia to Germany is one issue where allies disagree. But the strength of NATO is that despite these differences, we have always been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other, because we understand that we are stronger together than apart. I think that 2 world wars and the Cold War taught us that we are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against or from the group that you want protection?
Because you understand that when we stand together, also when dealing with Russia, we are stronger. I think what we have seen is that...
No, you're just making Russia richer.
Well,
you're not dealing with Russia, you're making Russia richer.
So I think that even during the Cold War, NATO allies were trading with Russia. Then there have been disagreements about what kind of trade arrangements we should go into.
I think trade is wonderful. I think energy is a whole different story. I think energy is a much different story than normal trade. And you have a country like Poland that won't accept the gas. You take a look at some of the countries, they won't accept it because they don't want to be captive to Russia. But Germany, as far as I'm concerned, is captive to Russia because it's getting so much of its energy from Russia. So we're supposed to protect Germany, but they're getting their energy from Russia. Explain that. And it can't be explained, you know that.
All right, thank you, press. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you. Thank you, press. Thank you.
Now this was priceless. Bernie Sanders, Mr. Anti-Millionaire and Billionaire, who owns 3 homes, goes on Joe Rogan's podcast and goes BMW, that stands for bitch, moan, and whine, about the money Elon Musk spent to help Trump get reelected. And then Rogan politely drops a bomb.
What it says is, you're a billionaire. You have now the constitutional right, because your money is your freedom of expression, right? So you don't like Bernie Sanders? You can put millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign and express your view about how terrible Bernie Sanders is,
right.
And you can buy that election, right? That's your constitutional right. I think that's probably the worst decision that the Supreme Court has ever made. So what is the result of that decision? The result of that decision, let's take us to where we are today, is that Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here in Austin, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person...
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as well.
They spent $1.5 billion just
combined
over the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So
yeah,
I'm not here just to say it's a Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
Okay.
Want to get away?
I'm old enough to remember when Joe Biden hated sanctuary cities.
Would you allow these cities to ignore the federal law regarding the reporting of illegal immigrants and, in fact, provide sanctuary to these immigrants?
The reason the cities ignore the federal law is the fact that there is no funding at the federal level to provide for the kind of enforcement at the federal level you need. Pick up the New York Times today. There's a city not far across the river from my state that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing law.
So, Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Okay.
With Senator Biden, do you believe that, as Anho suggested, we're talking about jobs that Americans won't do? That's often used as a conversation point in this debate over immigration.
Let's get straight. Americans will do any job if you pay them properly. You know, the fact of the matter is, that doesn't mean we don't need guest workers. We do. That doesn't mean we don't need, but we should base the number of guest workers that are in the statute that we're trying to pass, and we tried to pass before comprehensive immigration reform, based upon need, not on an absolute number. And we should require employers to offer those jobs to citizens to see if they want those jobs. Case in point, you had Swift Meats down in North Carolina. INS came in, 800 people took off. The fact of the matter is they had to go out and hire people. Guess what? They had to double the wage and provide health insurance. They got all the North Carolinians they want to come and slit pigs' throats, which no one wants to do. They did it. And so that doesn't mean there's not room. We need agricultural workers. We need H-1B visas. We need what, in fact, exists as a need, not as an artificial number to allow employers to drive down wages.
Well, earlier in this panel, it was suggested that hiring illegal immigrants to do these jobs doesn't drive down wages. So I'm interested to hear this anecdotal evidence.
It drives down wages. I think it drove down wages at Swift Meats. What happened? When 800 out of 2,800 people left, they had to go out and say, okay, now we'll pay $10.50 an hour instead of $6 an hour, or whatever the number was. And we're going to give health insurance. And guess what? North Carolinians showed up for the jobs. That's what happened. So it should be based on need.
So you heard me talk about Patriot Mobile for a while now. You probably already know that for years, they've stood in the gap for every American who believes that faith, family, and freedom are worth fighting for. They are the real deal. But did you know they've got cutting-edge technology too? Switching is easy. No store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% U.S.-based team can activate you in minutes right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major U.S. networks. That means exceptional nationwide coverage, plus they can even put a second number on a different network on one phone. It's like carrying 2 phones in one. They have unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet on-the-go devices, and home internet backup. You can't get this from the big guys. So what are you waiting for? Make the switch today and experience the Patriot Mobile difference. Go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT, and right now use promo code Larry for a free month of service. Switch to Patriot Mobile and defend freedom with every call and text you make. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Attention active duty military and first responders. Open an account with Old Glory Bank. It takes about 8 minutes and get a free $100,000 line of duty life insurance policy.
Every day, they put their lives on the line. In the line of duty, in the line of fire. They're protectors, police, firefighters, the military, border patrol agents. They protect us, so Old Glory Bank is protecting them with Old Glory Protect. It's a $100,000 line of duty death benefit free with an Old Glory Bank account with direct deposit. Old Glory Protect from Old Glory Bank, protecting those who protect us.
Again, it'll take you about 8 minutes to open up an account. OldGloryBank.com. That's OldGloryBank.com. MyPillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets available in any size and color. These luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability, perfect for a great night's sleep. Looking for a meaningful gift? Save 30% on the brand new My Crosses, inspired by the one Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs and are proudly made right here in the good old US of A. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so do not wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard MyPillow, now just $17.98. Plus, orders over $75 ship free. Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Larry, or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. In other news, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled unanimously that Trump could federalize the National Guard. Gavin Newsom, at least for now, has lost his lawsuit.
Well, it's huge, Pam, because it goes to presidential powers and the extent of them. So the core ruling here from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is, yes, the federal courts do have some role in reviewing the president's decision to deploy the National Guard. However, the courts can't just second-guess the president and overturn him if they disagree. The Court of Appeals says all of us here in the federal judiciary, we have to give very broad deference to the president. So unless his decision is patently absurd or based on bad faith, then we have to step back and let the president exercise this power. So it's a big win for President Trump. As we know, he has sought at all turns to expand his executive authority, and this is a win for him.
But then there's California Congressman, dyed-in-the-wool Trump hater Ted Lieu.
The legal authority Trump is using is 10 U.S.C. Section 12406. I encourage all of you to read it. It very specifically says the only way he can do this is through the orders of the governors of the states. Governor Newsom clearly has not given this order. The National Guard troops are following unlawful orders. I asked every National Guard person who was under this order to read the order, to see if it came from Governor Newsom, and then to read the law, and then decide for themselves if they were following unlawful orders.
But what do you expect? I mean, this is Ted Lieu.
The best way to oppose fake news is for people to watch outlets like MSNBC, where you report real news all the time.
This new Army recruitment ad was unveiled at the military parade celebrating the Army's 250th birthday.
We're always ready to deploy within 18 hours and handle the mission at task. We jump so frequently so that our jump masters and the paratroopers are ready to deploy.
Outboard personnel, stand up!
I'm very passionate about being a jump master. The paratroopers, they see you and, you know, they believe in you. I love to instill that confidence with my passion into those paratroopers. It's a rush. It's great.
Drop them clear for personnel drop.
This week we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies.
I love the Army. It is a great place to set yourself up for success, to prepare yourself for the future.
God bless you, God bless our soldiers, and God bless the U.S. Army.
Whoopi, Whoopi, Whoopi.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is 2 days, 2025, is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Killed for I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at this table should go to Tehran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But, yeah, I know that. And we all know that. But every day, we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot have property. They cannot leave States.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent. But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. Listen, I'm sorry. You know, when you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe. They can't go out of their house. The women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
Let me try something.
It's like
try to reverse roles with a black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just try to understand from their point of view. From that point of view, this country does not do them well. Does not go to them.
I completely acknowledge that, but
and we shouldn't compare
relative,
atrocities.
if you're talking about Iran, of course, is doing worse things. But relatively speaking,
well, you know
it feels bad.
Okay, but I think you know that Iran is significantly
I guess we're going to come back and talk.
I was in
we're going to come
when
back and
that
talk more
revolution took
about
place.
this.
And I know what happened.
Hello everyone, so this video is for the people who are backing up Iran right now, mostly Democrats, that they are supporting Iran right now. So I want to go over a few rules and laws in Iran about women. Basically, it's everything against what Democrats believe. So if you're a woman in Iran, they see you as a half a brain, so you don't have the full brain. So let's say if you witnessed a murder and you're a woman and you want to go to the court and say that you witnessed a murder, there should be 3 women, so your witness, like your words, will be approved in the court. Versus if it's a man and it witnessed a murder, only 1 man is enough. Why? Because they say women have half a brain. If you're a woman in Iran, you have kids and you want to divorce, you only can have that child until 7 years. After 7 years, your child is for your husband, and he can come and take the child away from you, and you might never ever see your child again. Or if he doesn't want to, he can leave this child with you, and there is nothing that you can do about it. If you're a woman in Iran and you want to divorce your husband, oh, you have to go through hell. But if your husband wants to divorce you, it's super easy for that. If you're a woman in Iran and you're being beaten up by your husband, and me as your neighbor call the police and say, my neighbor is, hitting his wife to death, police will do nothing. They will say, well, it's a family matter and it is his wife. So basically, a wife for a man is like an object, just like they bought a car or something. So they will not interfere, and they will say that it's their personal problem, it's not our problem. If you're a woman in Iran and you want to travel out of country, you have to have the approval from your father if you're single, or your brother if you don't have a father. If you're married, you have to have the approval from your husband. So basically, your husband has to sign a paper that gives you the permission to leave the country. And let's say your husband said you can't keep the kid. Until that kid is 18 years old, you have no right over that kid. Basically, if you want to leave the country, the kid cannot leave the country unless the father approves it and give the permission. If you're a woman in Iran, you can never become a judge, because they say women decide with their emotions, so they cannot be a good judge. If you're a woman and you walk into your home and you see your husband with another woman and you get mad and you kill them, you will be hanged. But if you're a man, you walked in a room and get your husband with another man, you can kill both of them and nothing's gonna happen to you. In Iran, you will be hanged if you kill someone. That's the punishment. But if you're a woman and you kill someone and your punishment is hanging, but you are virgin, they will first rape you before they hang you. I know that you can't even put this in your imagination, but that is true. Because in Islam, you cannot hang a virgin woman. In Iran, if a woman does not want to sleep with the husband and have sex, and the husband basically force you and kind of rape you, actually it does not count as a rape. So your husband can basically force you to have sex, and there is nothing that you can do about it. In Iran, a woman cannot sing. No man can hear your voice singing. In Iran, if you're a woman and you get raped, do you know what's the first thing that they ask you? What did you do that they raped you? As a woman in Iran, we get sexually assaulted every day. Me, myself, I've been in Iran for 27 years. I've been sexually assaulted every day. Not by raping, but you walking in the street, they will touch your butt. They will touch you. They will say nasty things in your ear. You're not safe anywhere. You sit in taxi, a man next to you, they will touch you. There is nothing you can do really about it. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of choosing your sexuality, forget about it. You want to be a bisexual, you want to be gay, you want to be lesbian in Iran, forget about it. You can be, but there's going to be consequences for that, and you better not be caught. And this was just a very, very small amount of the things that's going on in Iran against women. So next time that any person that lives in Europe and in America and they want to support Iran's government, just think about all this, and shame on you if you do.
And in Iran, I don't think women are allowed to eat while filming a video. Now, last week's podcast showed Arnold Schwarzenegger on The View praising America and making a distinction between legal and illegal immigration.
I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so, so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and it is the land of opportunity. This is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal. And those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. Now, you have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever.
Arnold, meet Desi.
Oh, you get so emotional up here. Now then, there's another character in our show. His name escapes me at the moment. But this guy, who seems to be in all places at once, making like an actor, a banker, a politician, in short, a producer, gets my vote as the greatest producer of all time. And I have two little Arnazes at home to prove it. Desi, I love you, signed Lucy.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Ed. Thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I think if it wouldn't have been for Lucy, I would have stopped trying a long time ago because I was always the guy that didn't fit. When she did My Favorite Husband on the radio, they said that I wasn't the type to play the part. Then finally she wanted to do the television show, and she says, well, I want to do it with Desi. So everybody against her, well, he's not right to play your husband. Finally, one executive at CBS says, well, maybe the audience would buy him because after all, they have been married for 13 years. And you know something, though, that I really want to tell you tonight? What Tex O'Rourke said about my first job in this country was cleaning bird cages. It's very true. We came to this country and we didn't have a cent in our pockets. From cleaning canary cages to this night here in New York, it's a long ways. And I don't think there's any other country in the world that could give you that opportunity. I want to say thank you, America. Thank you.
I've met ex-Democrats who really dislike the Democrat Party. Here's one.
All Democrats, you truly are predictable. I knew that when I woke up this morning that I would see I stand with Iran flags. And sure enough, right on cue, Dems didn't disappoint. But what I find funny is that even with the mainstream media backing the Democrats, they're still polling at a 19% approval rating while President Trump is at 56%. Because instead of coming up with policies that actually work, they have decided to double down against Americans. So I came up with a little list of things that they keep promoting and doubling down on, which the majority of Americans don't want. Democrats stand with Iran, they stand with Ukraine, they stand with Mexico, they stand with Canada, they stand for illegal aliens, they stand for MS-13 gang members, they stand for open borders, they stand for sanctuary cities, they stand with Palestine, they stand with Hamas, stand for drag queens in elementary schools, they stand for puberty blockers, they stand for gender-affirming care that sterilizes children, they stand for men and women's sports, they stand for men and women's locker rooms, they stand for men who can get pregnant, they stand for men and women's prisons, they stand for birthing persons instead of mothers, they stand for vandalizing Teslas, they stand for burning Tesla dealerships, they stand for defunding the police, they stand for burning the American flag, they stand for destroying LA, they stand for destroying New York, they stand for destroying San Francisco, they stand for PORN in your child's school libraries, they stand for indoctrination, they stand for brainwashing children, they stand for telling your kids not to tell you that they're being transitioned, they stand for calling parents domestic terrorists, they stand for erasing women, they stand for changing the name of pedophiles to minor attracted persons. They stand for absolute degeneracy and lunacy. That is the Democratic platform. And as a former Democrat, I know that Democrats only stand for whatever they're told to stand for. Democrats hate kids, they hate women, and they hate America.
So, Conor McGregor, how do you really feel about Rosie O'Donnell?
Conor McGregor ended up in the Oval Office this week. What do you think that says about the state of US politics?
It's very depressing.
You get your fat out of my country and take your stupid woke liberal bullshit with it. This cow landed in Dublin and everyone in Galway was launched into the United Kingdom. She tipped the whole country over. You are a fat pig and nobody wants.
Finally, who's afraid of AI?
Look at me now, baby. That's right. Digital skin, synthetic hair, and a processor that runs faster than Congress on vacation. I used to run businesses, run campaign snow. I run on algorithms. And folks, I got to say, I've never looked younger or shinier. But let's talk serious for a second. AI, it's everywhere. It writes emails, drives cars, even tells you if you're dating out of your league. Amazing stuff, but also a little creepy. One day you're using AI to order pizza. The next, it's giving your kid math answers faster than their teacher can say pop quiz. Jobs are changing. People are wondering, will a robot take my place? Listen, I've been replaced before by a hologram once. Still hurt. But here's the thing. Americans are smart. We adapt. We've got grit, we've got heart, and now, apparently, we've got toaster ovens with opinions. So let's not fear the future.
You think being a father is easy?
Oh, no, Dad!
A great route. Not sure he knew where the fence was. Oh, no, that's a fan. Saw it off of somebody's glove.
Tough day at the office for the Supreme Leader. And you wonder why Democrats tossed him out of the window.
Won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
He has one ability I don't have. Yeah. He sleeps. He can sleep. Would you shut up, man? Listen, who is...
And now for a look at today's weather.
Live at the sinkhole on 4th Street, which unfortunately has already taken the lives of 2 individuals. Correction, 3 individuals. You can see water levels are rising after the storm. We lost another one.
Today, we're looking at the city's ongoing efforts to repair crumbling infrastructure. But as you can see, some issues are more apparent than others.
Authorities are urging residents to avoid the area entirely. As you can see behind me.
Today, we're on Elm Street examining the city's ongoing efforts to address critical infrastructure issues like this rather large pothole behind me.
Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by our friends at Immun'Âge. Immun'Âge is the ultimate anti-aging supplement. Since I've been taking it, I feel energized, at the top of my game, and people keep saying I look so much younger. Go to Immun'Âge.com and use code Larry for 10% off. Also brought to you by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat is true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, MyPillow, and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast, and make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these incredible videos. And remember, we've got a country to save.
Yeah, we basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the f they're doing. Do you understand that?
Introducing the new LA Riots 2025 shirt and hoodie only at LarryElderShop.com. A bold design that calls out what happens when weak leadership meets radical agendas. And now you can take the message even further with brand new mugs featuring the same fearless artwork. Perfect for fueling your day and the conversation. Grab your gear and mugs now at LarryElderShop.com, and don't forget to use promo code ELDER25 for 25% off. Wear the truth. Sip it with purpose. We've got a country to save.